I can tell you what administration that the weaponization was ended under.
I'll reclaim my time. This wasn't a trick question.
You don't get to
Madam Attorney
reclaim
General.
your time.
Madam Attorney General.
Because I don't like it.
Mr. Chairman, will you explain to the witness that he does reclaim his time?
Because I don't answer a question to your satisfaction.
Mr. Chairman.
5 minutes. That is all it took. Representative Joe Neguse walked into that hearing room with 2 questions and a video clip. And in 3 minutes, the Attorney General of the United States completely lost control. Not because the questions were hard, not because Neguse was mean or pushy, but because he asked the simplest question in the room, a question any first-year law student could answer, and Pam Bondi couldn't or wouldn't. And when Neguse tried to move on, Bondi snapped at him with a sentence that has never been said in a congressional hearing before. You don't get to take back your time. Stop and think about that. A witness at a congressional oversight hearing. A witness who was there to answer questions told the sitting congressman that he doesn't get to control his own time. That is not a legal argument. That is a power move. And it blew up in her face. Subscribe right now and hit the bell, because what happened in that room is something you need to see to believe. House Judiciary Committee, the 11th of February, 2026, afternoon session. The hearing had already been running for hours. Pam Bondi had clashed with Jamie Raskin, avoided Dan Goldman, argued with Ted Lieu. She developed a pattern when a tough question came. Switched to Biden, switched to Merrick Garland, switched to crime numbers in the questioner's district. She'd managed to stay on her feet through some serious exchanges. Then Representative Joe Neguse from Colorado got his turn. Neguse is the assistant Democratic leader, former impeachment manager, one of the sharpest legal minds in Congress. He'd watched Bondi's playbook for hours. He knew exactly what he was walking into. And he came prepared with something Bondi couldn't avoid, couldn't twist, couldn't survive. Her own record, in her own words, contradicted by her own actions. Neguse didn't start with Epstein. He started with a tweet. 6 days before the hearing, Bondi had posted on social media, "If you come after law enforcement, the Trump administration will come after you." Tough words, strong stance, public promise to protect police officers. Neguse let that statement hang in the air for exactly 1 second. Then he pressed play. The video that filled that hearing room wasn't from last year or last month. It was from the 6th of January, 2021. Body camera footage recorded by the police officers Bondi had just promised to protect. And in that footage, a man in the crowd was screaming at those officers, "You are the Nazi. You are the Gestapo. Kill him. Yeah, kill him." His name was Jared Wise, former FBI agent. And as of last summer, senior advisor at the Department of Justice, Pam Bondi's Department of Justice. Feel the weight of that moment. The Attorney General who posted, "If you come after law enforcement, we will come after you." Just watch a video of her own employee screaming, "Kill him," at law enforcement on the 6th of January. The cameras were on Bondi's face. She had nowhere to go. Neguse's voice was calm, almost gentle. "Attorney General Bondi, that man works for you now, right?" Bondi tried to buy time. Who was that, Congressman? As if she didn't know. As if she hadn't been told. As if the man who screamed "kill him" at Capitol Police while wearing the uniform of her own FBI was somehow a stranger to her. Neguse didn't flinch. The man in that video, the one who was in the police-worn body cam footage, the one allegedly yelling "kill them" at police officers on the 6th of January, his name is Jared Wise. And Bondi, to her credit, if you want to call it that, didn't lie. "He does work for us," she confirmed it. Jared Wise screaming, "Kill him" at cops, now works for the Attorney General who promised to protect law enforcement. Neguse let that sink in for exactly 1 beat. Then he laid out the full record. This is an individual whom a federal grand jury charged for 2 felonies and 4 misdemeanors related to his participation in the attack on the 6th of January. One of those charges was forcibly attacking, resisting, opposing, blocking, threatening, and interfering with police with the intent to commit another felony. He looked at Bondi. "This is who you choose as the chief law enforcement officer of the United States of America to hire at the Department of Justice, someone on video yelling, 'Kill him' at police officers." Bondi's defense was 1 sentence. "I believe he was pardoned by President Trump." And there it was, the logic of this administration squeezed into a single sentence. He yelled, "Kill him" at cops. He was charged for attacking police, but Trump pardoned him. So now he works at the Justice Department, and the Attorney General doesn't see a problem with that. Neguse saw the problem clearly. Oh, he was pardoned. You are right. You are right. Pardoned by President Trump for his offense. Pardoned for yelling, "Kill him," at police officers. He paused. Let each word land separately. And yet you expect hardworking police officers across the country to believe that you take law enforcement seriously. Bondi had no answer. How could she? The contradiction was complete and impossible to escape. You can't post, "If you come after law enforcement, we will come after you" on Monday, and hire someone who screamed, "Kill him," at police officers on Tuesday. You can't call yourself the champion of law enforcement while giving a senior advisory position to a man who is charged for attacking law enforcement. The hypocrisy wasn't subtle. It was documented. It was on video. It was in the official DOJ employment records. And Neguse had just put all of it on the congressional record. If you're watching this, hit that like button right now, because what comes next is even more stunning. Neguse wasn't done. He moved to his second subject, the Department of Justice itself, specifically what Bondi had done to it over the past year. The Public Integrity Section, known as PIN, is one of the most important divisions in the entire federal government. It was created after Watergate specifically to investigate corruption by public officials, members of Congress, judges, government employees. It was designed to be the one place in American law enforcement where political power couldn't protect the corrupt. It was created precisely because Watergate proved that without an independent corruption watchdog, power corrupts without consequence. And Pam Bondi had gutted it. Neguse wanted the committee and everyone watching to understand what that meant. So he asked the simplest possible question, a question with one correct answer, a question that every attorney general in history would know. Do you know which presidential administration under which the PIN was first created? Pause right now and think about that question. It is not a trick. It is not a trap. It is a history question. The Public Integrity Section was created after Watergate under Gerald Ford. Any law school graduate knows this. Any attorney general nominee would have been told about this during confirmation preparation. Any person who had actually engaged with the history of the division they were dismantling would know this. Bondi's answer should have been 2 words, Gerald Ford. Instead, she said something that told the entire room everything they needed to know. I can tell you what administration that the weaponization was ended under. She didn't answer the question. She switched to her talking point to the word that the Trump administration uses as a shield against every accountability question, weaponization. The DOJ wasn't gutted. It was de-weaponized. PIN wasn't dismantled. Weaponization was ended. The framing was so automatic, so rehearsed, so divorced from the actual question being asked that it laid bare the entire strategy in one sentence. Neguse had heard enough. I'll reclaim my time. This wasn't a trick question. Standard congressional procedure. A member asks a question. The witness doesn't answer. The member moves on. Happens dozens of times in every hearing. It is how oversight works. Except this time, the witness didn't accept it. And that is when Bondi said the sentence that no witness in a congressional hearing has ever said. You don't get to reclaim your time. Not a legal objection, not a procedural challenge, not an appeal to the chairman, a direct assertion of power over a sitting congressman. The room went silent for 1 full second, then erupted. Because what Bondi had just said wasn't just rude or aggressive, it was a fundamental rejection of the constitutional authority of Congress itself. Members of Congress have the right, the duty to conduct oversight of the executive branch. That authority includes controlling their own questioning time. A witness at a congressional hearing is there to answer questions, not to determine which questions get answered, not to decide how much time a congressman gets to ask them. Bondi wasn't just refusing to answer. She was claiming the power to refuse, and she was doing it out loud on camera in front of the entire country. Jamie Raskin intervened immediately as the ranking Democrat. He addressed Chairman Jim Jordan directly. Mr. Chairman, I need to explain to the witness that he does reclaim his time. Raskin's voice was controlled but urgent, because what Bondi had done wasn't just rude. It was a fundamental misunderstanding or deliberate rejection of how congressional oversight works. Members of Congress have the constitutional authority to conduct oversight of the executive branch. That authority includes the power to control their own questioning time. A witness, even the Attorney General, even the most senior law enforcement official in the country, does not get to override that authority. The roles in that room were clear. Neguse asks, Bondi answers. Not Bondi decides what gets asked. Not Bondi decides how long the answer takes. Not Bondi decides how long the answer takes. Not Bondi decides when the questioning ends. Raskin understood that. Jordan understood it. Every person watching understood it. The only person who seemed not to understand it, or who simply refused to accept it, was Pam Bondi. And her refusal revealed something important. She didn't see herself as a witness accountable to Congress. She saw herself as an equal, as someone who could push back, reassert, and override. That is not what the Attorney General is. That is not what the Constitution says. And that is exactly why Neguse's calm, systematic response landed so hard. The crosstalk became total chaos. Multiple voices. Bondi talking over Neguse, Raskin addressing Jordan, Jordan trying to manage the room. At one point, Jordan even offered to answer Neguse's questions himself, which said everything. And through all of it, Neguse stayed calm. When the noise finally subsided enough to speak, he did something more devastating than any counterattack. He just answered the question himself quietly. Precisely, the president under which PIN was created was Gerald Ford. It was created after Watergate. I am not asking you a question, Madam Attorney General. The administration under which it was created was Gerald Ford. Let that land. Neguse answered the question. Bondi refused to answer because somebody had to put the correct information on the record. Because the committee couldn't let the Attorney General's evasion stand as the final word on the history of a division she dismantled because facts matter, even when the person responsible for facts refuses to acknowledge them. Neguse moved to his final subject, the National Cryptocurrency Enforcement Team eliminated under Bondi's tenure. He asked, how many people currently work there? Bondi refused to answer. Neguse already knew why. He turned to Chairman Jordan. I might as well ask the chairman these questions. The questions I've asked are not trick questions. They're not gotcha questions. They're basic questions about how the Department of Justice functions and the unwillingness of this Attorney General to answer them in good faith. He pressed further. When a member of Congress asks how many people work at the National Cryptocurrency Enforcement Team and the Attorney General refuses to answer, it is not a coincidence. It is because she eliminated the team. Why? Because her boss is making money hand over fist, $1.4 billion over the last year through cryptocurrency holdings. You look directly at Jordan. I think what is happening at the Department of Justice is a disgrace, Mr. Chairman, and I would urge you to gain control of this hearing.